Good evening, wonderful people. It is Thursday, July 25th, 2024. We are live right now. We're so excited to be in the land of the living. It could have been another way, but God saw fit that we were here tonight. I need you to do me a favor. I need you to share. We are live on Facebook right now at Sunshine Camila. We are live at the YouTube channel, which is the name of the show. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we are live on Twitch. As I always say, I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're literally one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny. Proven over and over again since I started this show in 2020. As I always state, I have some of the dopest people on this side of heaven on this show, and tonight is no different than any other night. I'm super excited to have this young man on the show, not only in history-wise, growing up like not too far from him, and then to see the growth from when I saw him as a teenage young lady to a grown woman now is an amazing time to see what he's doing. I'm gonna get into his bio real quick, and I chose the short version because that long one was like, whoo. I know I said short. I know I said short. I know I did. But that extensive one, I was like, we're gonna have to shorten this one up. I know he been doing it good in the kingdom, but we're gonna have to shorten it down a little bit. So, Pastor Samuel Berry III was born. Do you want me to tell you your birthday?
No, we don't need to know all that.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good.
Well, he was born when he was born. That we're going to leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Go ahead and tell them they might want to give me a gift. Go ahead and tell them September 1st.
September 1st in the wonderful year of 1975.
Come on.
That wasn't my year, but that's fine. Samuel made one of the best decisions he could ever made. He married Lakeisha Jackson. In 2003, after much consideration, Elder Samuel Berry III was elected as senior pastor of New Corinth Missionary Baptist Church, which is located in Detroit. When Elder Berry was appointed as pastor, the church had an active 25 persons when attended morning worship. During his tenure with New Corinth, the church grew rapidly, expanding to 2 worship services and more than 300 members on roll. In August of 2023, an extraordinary chapter unfolded in the remarkable journey of this wonderful man that we're going to talk to. With unwavering faith and a heart committed to service, Pastor Berry was chosen as the new spiritual leader of Praise Tabernacle International in Plantation, Florida, ushering in a wave of inspiration and blessings for the congregation and the entire community. You guys, you know what we got to do. Village, wherever you are, if you in a room, I need you to stand up. I need you to raise your hands. I need you to shout to the top of your lungs. And before we do that, now you know if you in the car, I need you to safely pull over, roll down your windows, and if you feel like it, you can get out your car. And I need you to scream to the top of your lungs, welcome Pastor Samuel Berry III to the show!
Bless you, woman of God.
Welcome.
I'm so honored to be here this afternoon, this evening, shall I say. And thank you for having us on your show.
Wow. So I'm gonna go down memory lanes, and I don't know if you remember or not.
Okay, refresh our memory.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to Wayside Missionary Baptist Church.
Oh, you're going back way far.
I'm just saying. We're gonna go back to Wayside Missionary Baptist Church is where I actually met you.
Okay, on Rome's.
On Rome's, yes.
Dr. D.N. Ford.
Yes. So, with your family, Rosalind, Pastor Rosalind at this point,
Right.
is directing the choir. And I am a young person, young teenager in this choir. I was also there with your uncle, David Berry, was playing at the time. So you, at the time, you were directing the choir.
Right.
And I want to say you had just started or answered the call to ministry, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I was playing the drums and directing the choir when I first started coming around Wayside. I didn't start preaching because I started coming around Wayside in 1988. Right, it was 1988 when I started coming around Wayside. I want to say it was 88, yeah, because I started preaching in 1991. So coming around Wayside for some time before I started preaching. Yeah, that's how that went.
So yeah, I remember seeing you, your younger brother Ced, right?
Cedric, my baby brother, yep.
And at the time, you know, it was the young Michael, the whole group, everybody was, you know, either you're directing, you're playing the instrument, you're doing something.
You were doing one of the two.
One of them. And so this is where our history began.
Okay.
So ever since, you know, we had social media and the different transitions of life, I have been watching you. I have been watching you with early in the mornings going forth in prayer. And I was like, one of these days, I'm going to ask him to come on the show. I feel like nowadays we need all the prayer we can get.
Truly.
So, and for a young man as yourself, to lead the charge of worship as well as prayer. So, I'm not going to say kudos, but I'm not surprised. I labeled this show, our conversation, The Legacy, the seeds that were planted.
Okay.
I know some of your family history being connected as far as the music is concerned, and now this day, ministry is concerned as well, that you couldn't help it if you wanted to.
I couldn't. It's in my DNA, as you said, legacy. Third generation on my dad's side. On my mom's side, fourth generation. So it's almost like I was sharing with my uncle today, the best of both worlds. Something that is undeniable that I couldn't get away from.
Mm-hmm.
It was destined.
Absolutely. I think when you answered and said you would, that was the first thing that popped in my mind of the topics that we would talk about is the legacy. Not only are you walking in the seeds that were planted inside of you, but the seeds that you're planting right now within your own family, as well as the community that you're now living in, looking at this wonderful background in Florida.
Right. Sunny South Florida.
I would say I was jealous, but you know, I'll get there one day.
Michigan has good weather as of right now, and it's hot in Michigan, from my understanding.
Hot? I mean, what do we consider hot?
Y'all consider Michiganders, anything above 80, 90 degrees is considered to be good, favorable weather. So that's what you all are experiencing. But one thing about it is your 80 is different from Florida's 80.
Oh, sure.
You
I
know.
am definitely sure of that.
Yeah.
So let's get into this wonderful conversation.
Okay.
First topic are we going to talk about is growing up. Um, give us some how you grew up.
Well, of course, I grew up in a 2-parent home. My mom and
Mhm.
dad, in the beginning, married. My dad was the church musician before he was a pastor. My mom, of course, a PK pastor's daughter, the Murphys, Dr. Bishop William H. Murphy Sr. So, growing up in a family, my dad was a preacher, of course, and he played the organ. So, I grew up in a house where music was always going on. But I grew up in a home where my mother was I would say, the one that advocated for education,
Mhm.
advocated for excellence. Both of my parents were disciplinarians, so it wasn't you got away with something and the other one didn't know. But both of my parents were disciplinarians. My father and mother believed in raising the child in the way that they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it. So I grew up in a great home, mom and dad. And then, of course, I had a brother and a sister, and that was in my dad's first marriage with my mom. So I think I like to say I had a good childhood. I didn't have to want for anything. We always had, I want to say, food on the table, clothes on our back, shoes on our feet. But we went to church, of course. We went to choir rehearsal, so I was very familiar with the functions and the church atmosphere culture. Being my dad playing the organ, my dad was the first minister of music for my grandfather Bishop William H. Murphy Sr. So I grew up always around choirs and musicians. My dad worked with those back in the day, the Craig brothers, Thomas Whitfield. I found out my father was instrumental in teaching Tommy and, of course, Rudolph Stanfield, Pastor Rudolph Stanfield, teaching them how to bump. And I heard this from their own mouth. And I was just like, bumping is what we call shouting
Shout
music.
music, yes.
They said Sam Berry would come over to Prayer Tabernacle on Sunday nights. I probably wasn't even born. If I was a baby. Go over there on Sunday nights and he'll be on the organ bumping, shouting. That's when Craig Memorial was down. I forgot. I don't even know where it was. Where it was not Craig Memorial. It was Prayer Tabernacle, PT they called it. But I grew up in church. Grew up in a wonderful house. Went to school like every other kid. Got whoopings when I didn't do my work.
Mhm.
But I would like to say that I grew up in a house that cultivated me for who I am today. That helped contribute to the man that I've become.
Absolutely. It's one thing that's amazing to me. When we're young, some of us don't know who we're gonna become. Um,
True.
and again, to see you as a teenager back then, to see you now, it's
Mm.
like, wow, I knew you were gonna be something. I just didn't know what you was gonna be. I knew you was gonna be something. And so again, I knew it had to do with music. Even the way it's amazing how people even pay attention to certain things. How you moved as a teenager, well, being in a church and things of that nature, you didn't move like all the other teenagers.
Okay.
You didn't. And I'm a people watcher. I love watching people.
Okay.
I remember I could actually see you walking in the church, going straight to the organ, or being around and sitting there and absorbing everything. You didn't, well, not to me. You didn't say too much.
Very few words.
Exactly. How, if I wasn't paying attention, how would I know that?
Whenever I walk, of course, walking on Wayside, there was nothing much to say. Just sit there and absorb. I would sit there and watch my aunt, Pastor Rosalind, watch my uncle. But before it was my uncle I was watching James Hawkins
Yes.
and Valeria.
Yes.
Jackson on the organ.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
watching her and working with James, or we're watching James, seeing Tony Louis on the drums.
Yes.
You know, so I would just sit there and absorb and watch and learn. And of course, I learned a lot just sitting watching. Sometimes you have young people that are so ambitious that they want to run and get on. But instead of, I was always taught it's better to be asked up than to be asked down. So I will always sit and absorb. And one of the blessings was, as I sat and absorbed, people will observe my giftings and my talents and anointings, and they will ask me up. And when they ask me up, I just do what I was supposed to do and go sit down.
Right.
So,
I think it was 1 year. Wayside had, well, we were always known for musicals and concerts, some of the best. And it was the youth choir.
okay.
And they asked your church, I believe, to render 2 selections. And one of the songs you guys did, and that's funny that I remember this. And I had it written down. It wasn't Follower of Christ. Or was it?
I want to be
Yes.
a follower of Christ. That was Oscar Hayes. I remember doing that. The fellowship, fellowship. My dad's church came over there, and I came with the choir.
And you were directing?
Yeah, that's when I was directing the choir fellowship. And that would have been in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like 99, actually 90. Yeah, because that's when that style, Oscar with Alf, Abundant Life, Fellowship Chorale, Michael Mendigoff, that's when they were all popular.
Popular, yes.
And that was in the beginning of my being the main choir director, church choir director at my dad's church. So yeah, I remember that very vividly, coming over there on that song.
It was definitely, that was the first time I heard the song, first of all, and then how you directed, I paid attention. Of course, I'm under Rosalind. I can't help but to, pay attention to the parts, pay attention to the leadership.
Okay.
And so again, I remember that as if it was yesterday. I remember the songs y'all did. And I want to say, was your Auntie Angela in the choir?
Auntie Angie might have been gone. She wasn't in the choir then. When I took over the choir, Auntie Angie wasn't in the choir then. No, she sure wasn't. I believe she was gone at that time. She had left the ministry. Because if I'm in 90, she was at St. Paul Life and Praise. Okay. Under Pastor T.J. Hemphill at that time. So I can't remember who my choir members was, but I know.
Wait. Time out. Wait a minute. Like in T.J. Hemphill, Perilous Times director, writer?
Yeah, he was a pastor of St. Paul. It used to be St. Paul Apostolic Church on Hamilton, but then they moved around the block once he took over the church, and he changed the name to St. Paul Life and Praise, which was moved to the old Word of Faith building. I believe it was either Word of Faith or Straight Gate. They moved to their old edifice, and that was a thriving church. Everybody went to St. Paul Life and Praise.
That you telling me to you dropping gems tonight. I just want you to know that.
Oh, I know church history. I know a lot of
I ain't know. I need to write this down in the book. I ain't know.
Right. Because 1990, 1989, my father's church was on the brink of extinction. It was on the brink of dissolving for the moment, for that time, that era. So a couple of churches were on the rise then. That would have been your Second Unity, Bishop Greg Davis, Perfecting Church, and St. Paul Life and Praise. Inherited a lot of gems in the kingdom when fellowship began to dissolve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing. I didn't know. But now I know.
Now you know.
So the next one is tell me I remember when story.
I remember when.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. What do I remember? I remember a lot of things. I remember when about what? That's the question. Because I remember a lot. I have a very good memory. So like I just stated, I remember coming to Wayside. I remember Dr. Ford, Mother Ford. I remember all of that. I remember going to Cedar Point with Wayside. I remember a lot of those days where we traveled. I remember when Worm and his brother Mike, who's gone on to be with the Lord. But I remember Worm when Worm graduated from high school and was getting ready to be going to trade school to be a plumber. I remember those days. Buffy. I remember when I would come up to Wayside when there was no church and sit on the organ, and me and Tony Jackson would sit in the sanctuary. I'd be on the organ, he'd be on the drums, and then we'll switch up and we will practice and perfect our craft there in the sanctuary at Wayside. So Wayside carries a lot of memories. Valeria, God bless her memory, played a great role in who we are today because she made a great contribution in my life, Tony's life, my friend Reggie back then, of course, my god brother Reggie. She made a great investment. She kept us out of trouble. That generation gave us a safe place where we stayed out of trouble.
Absolutely.
We were not in jail. We were not men on the street because we had that haven of a Wayside and a fellowship and a great Ebenezer that just gave us places where we could go and just be young men in church. And here we all are today, still serving God.
Absolutely. And in your gifts.
And our gifts.
It was the whole family was like that. I was, I want to say, probably born into Wayside. My family was also there the majority of our life until it split. I'm still, close with all of them. We all say cousins, because that's where we were, from puberty all the way up. That's us.
That's your stomping ground.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't be who I am without the Ford family and Isaiah being the best uncle ever.
What? Come on now, Isaiah and David, they're great guys.
Yes, absolutely. They want to make sure that even in our community, even in the church family, that we were all safe. For one, two, we had an outlet. Even in playing the basketball teams, going to the YMCA, of course, Babalo, before there was a Cedar Point.
There was
Babalo. We had outlets to make sure that we wasn't in the streets. I remember also, and I name our people the Village, because that family, that church was part of my growing up, part of making sure I stayed on good ground and above ground. It was, school. Isaiah had a program. You had to bring in your report cards. No excuses. And if you didn't do right, you would get a talk. And some of them got whoopings. Because again, it wasn't just your parents; it was all of us together.
It was the village,
the whole village. So, wow! Now my jaws hurt from smiling so much. Next one. When destiny calls, what you doing, or what did you do?
When destiny calls, you answer. Destiny is always calling you. It's calling you every day. God is setting something in your pathway to fulfill, and it's our responsibility to submit and to hear and to move in destiny. And when my destiny called, when I heard destiny's call, the voice of the Lord calling, I just simply answered. I never forget that day, sitting in the fellowship hall of fellowship in 1991 in May, sitting there during my father's pastoral anniversary banquet, and I had that divine encounter with the Lord, and the Lord reminded me that He called me to preach. I received the first initial call when I was 8 years old, but the divine encounter came when I was 15 years old, sitting in that fellowship hall. And after I never forget, I got it when the divine encounter ended. Me and my dad were at home. I walked in this room and I said, "Dad, I'm ready to tell God yes." And from that moment on, I've been walking in my destiny calling, my divine calling, and that is to preach the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. And I've been doing that now for it's 2004, I want to say over 30 something years, been preaching since 1991. And it was like right after I accepted my call, then everybody that was in my, I don't want to use the word crew, but yeah, crew. We all were, young men of destiny, and we all accepted our call pretty much in the same time. Pastor Dr. William Lee Reese, Bishop William Murphy III, Pastor Michael D. Berry, then a couple years later, Pastor David Johnson. We all came in at the same time, pretty much, and we all supported each other. We were communities, but that when destiny calls, you answer, and of course, when you walk in destiny and you fulfill your destiny, doors will open for you. I knew as a young kid that one day I would eventually pastor a congregation. I knew that was my destiny, but I knew that in order to get there was a process that I had to go through. I had to serve. So serving was a part of my destiny. Being a minister of music was a part of my destiny. Being a choir director, a worship leader, being a church janitor was a part of my destiny. When destiny calls, it does not always give you the preview of what's to come. You may know the end result, but you don't know the path of destiny that God's going to take you to arrive at that point or that zenith, that motif, that place. You could have never told me that everything that I've gone through in my life, that I had to go through it to get to where I am today. So
no, absolutely not.
Destiny calls your answer. Joseph had a dream, but he never envisioned a pit in his dream. David was anointed to be king, but he didn't know in the beginning that after he killed Goliath, he was going to have to run for his life. We don't always know what the end is going to be, but I believe that God uses the wilderness to prepare our hearts for where we are. Even Jesus had to go into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. But when he emerged from the wilderness, he emerged and he began to fulfill his destiny. He heard his father speak, "This is my beloved son, whom I'm well pleased." But right after he comes out of the Jordan River, he's led by the Spirit into the wilderness. That's a part of destiny. And oftentimes everybody wants destiny, what destiny brings, but they don't want the wilderness that goes along with the destiny. So
it can be a lonely road. It can be painful, especially if you are a social butterfly.
Yeah.
do I have to be the one to go through the pain? And all I want to do is love you. All I want to do is really be your friend.
Right.
And you're the one that, gets the lashings. Sometimes in the conversations, we don't always be honest when it comes to our walk.
True.
We want to show, the yes part at the end. Oh, we got a nice place to stay. We got a nice car to drive. We got some money in the bank, but we don't tell the other part, the in between part of the story.
True.
What happened between David being anointed to when he actually was king? There was years.
Oh yeah, it wasn't right away.
There was years. It's like, well, God, you called me at 8. What happened? And now it's years later.
It's years later, and I'm sitting here in this cave, wondering. This wasn't. I didn't get this when Samuel came to my dad's house.
No.
I didn't get this when Samuel came to Jesse's house. No, I did not know that the man that I went out and fought for was going to come out of envy and jealousy and seek to take my life. Didn't know it. But here it came as a part of my path of destiny.
Absolutely. Now to the point of it's recorded. Yes, God. That's the part that we tend to scoot over. This story had to be told in order for us to understand the blueprint of some of the things that God has set you up for.
Truly.
Because at the end of the day, nobody thought that Samuel Berry III possibly could have moved to Florida, could have pastored a church, or he had the tool and the answer for that community to grow. Because we know plenty of churches that's not growing.
A whole lot of churches not growing. You could not have told me in 2017 that in 2023 I was going to get called to a church in Florida. I thought that I would live and die in Michigan, to be honest with you. I never saw myself. Me and my wife had always talked about one day when we retire, we will move.
Okay.
Well, I didn't see this in the plan of God. I didn't see relocating to Florida to pastor a Praise Tabernacle in my future. I didn't see that. But it was just it was an act of, it was almost like what God did to Abraham. Get thee from among thy family and thy kindred and go to a place where I show you. Well, I thought that was what God was doing when I went to Flint.
Okay.
I thought that God was getting me from amongst my family and my kindred. But no, that wasn't it. Flint didn't require faith. Florida required faith, because here I am in Florida. I knew people in Flint. Flint was only 45 minutes, 50 minutes away from Detroit, so I could easily get to Detroit, shake and bake down 75 or 23, and get to family, get to my kids, get to my loved ones. But now I'm in Florida, and when God moved me out here, I didn't know nobody.
Wow.
When God called me to pastor, brought me to South Florida to pastor Praise Tabernacle, I knew not one person, but another pastor that came from Flint before I did, Pastor Tillman, Dr. Ezra Lee Tillman. But other than that, knew no one. Knew no one in the church, nobody. It was strictly faith and trusting God that you got me in the right place at the right time.
Wow.
And the human side of me said, I don't know. I don't know if this is it. But as time has passed by, I realized this is where God has me, and I'm happy to be here.
That testimony right there, I feel like it is what's needed. Because sometimes we overstay.
Yeah.
We're hindering ourselves. And sometimes we do have to cut ties with our family, as much as you love them, much as you grew up with them and they know all your business. You
Yeah.
gotta go.
And my family wasn't bad, are not bad people.
Of course not.
You know, it's not that they were doing something wrong and God won't know. My family has already helped me to get to where I am today.
Yes.
I am the contribution. I am the sum total of their contribution. You know, but it's easy to do ministry when you are in close proximity.
Yes.
When you know the region, you know the people, you got the connections, you can pick up the phone and make things happen. But when you got to go to an unfamiliar territory and establish yourself as a voice in this community to people that don't even know you.
That's definitely God. As we would, Pastor David Johnson was at our church Sunday, and when I tell you, he wore us out. He wore us out, and he mentioned, and Pastor Brandon, easily, it's what you do when you get to the Red Sea.
Question.
What do you do when you get to the Red Sea and you like, but God, you led me here. Now what? And like, the tool is already in your hand. Yes, God. It's already there. Now I'm gonna need you and your wife to help put your arms up and it's stretched. And look at God do what he gonna do.
Watch him do what he does best.
But the good thing is somebody's watching in the camp and they're going to tell your story. They're going to tell your story. So the whole thing is People Village, the seed's been there. Now they're growing and it's harvest time. You're going to make me jump off this couch and run around this house without the bump music, okay?
Go ahead and do it. We don't need that.
Without the bump music.
We don't need no music. You know, they used to be our praise chant. We don't need no music. Yeah.
We don't.
Say, yes, we do. You need it.
That's funny. Okay. Dead or alive, who would you like to do a collaboration with?
If I had the opportunity to do something with artists, music, or preaching,
it doesn't matter. Whoever, it could be ministry, it could be music, anywhere.
I mean, I would love to experience ministry with my father and my grandfather.
Ooh. Okay.
Those men of God. I would not be the preacher pastor that I am if it were not for their investments. I oftentimes think that I understand the providence of God and I understand how God moves. But if you say dead or alive, if I could do ministry with somebody that's gone and bring them back to do ministry with them, it would be one of those. It would be those two.
Wow.
Those three. I would love to see because their era of ministry was amazing.
Yeah.
The era of ministry that they were strong in, oh my goodness, that's when churches were at their height. People really loved God and went and expressed their love for God. I mean, choirs were on. Churches had choirs and not
praise teams
with stockings that went up to their knees, with dresses that flared out and high platform, and guys wore pants that wasn't looking like leotards. I mean, those days of church, they wore robes. That era of church was one of the greatest. And if I could rewind time and do ministry, I would love to have been an adult in their era to do
Mhm.
ministry, because I believe it was amazing. From what I've seen as a kid, they made their era made church exciting.
Yeah.
You
And
didn't
I
hear
would say,
people going around talking about church hurt.
nah, it was I want to say it was really community, and it really was a village. Like, not just knowing about something and not doing nothing about it. It was men grabbing other men to
Yeah,
get them off the street. Like, we all had the local um, drug people. We had the local uh, alcoholic or whatever. I know, and I seen them come out of the church and go grab them. They weren't
exactly.
worried about you fighting up. They wasn't worried about how you smell, what you had on. They would come out and get you.
And
Where
bring you
mothers
to the
were
church.
really mothers.
Yeah, they look like mothers.
Absolutely.
They had grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Absolutely.
You know, their daughter wasn't 16 years old, and
No.
we was calling her mother. You know, that generation. I mean, just think about it. If you go back to that time, Wayside was filled.
Yes. And it
Granted,
was generational. Like,
yeah,
yo, great was in the building. Like,
in the
it was
building,
everybody
worshiping,
went to church.
worship. Everybody, there was no question. We didn't have virtual church then. You
No.
know, to have your church on the TV was something. Your church had a TV broadcast or a radio broadcast, y'all was doing something big.
Y'all was doing something. Yep.
And
Yep.
those were I love those days. I really love those days. Oftentimes, you know, our flashback. I understand we can't bring those days back. That we have to move forward. But since you asked me, who would I bring back? I would bring back preachers from that era.
Absolutely. I'm gonna even go one step further. Not just the preachers, but we was afraid of the ushers. Do you
What?
hear me?
Hey, you got gum in your mouth?
You got
Spit
go
that gum out.
spit it
Spit that
out.
gum out right now. Put it in his bulletin. You put the gum in the bulletin. She took the bulletin and folded it up.
If they had one, you can spit in their hand.
They will put their gum in. You will put your gum in their hand. Yes. Put that candy away. Y'all stop that talking back here. Oh, I remember those. All right. I'm gonna tell your mom and dad. I remember those days. I remember being in junior church while service was going on.
Yes. Yes. Yep. We
I,
had I was telling someone, as far as when history turns the corner, my first songs, my first speeches, my first time being on stages was in church.
was in church prepared us for the real world.
The real world. Absolutely.
The real world. We were not afraid of public speaking. We did that in church, Easter speeches.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we had a lot of experience, and we gained a lot of experience that we use in our day-to-day lives.
Yes.
Growing up in the walls of the church.
Yes. Absolutely. I don't think people really pay attention to that. Your speeches, your oral things that we had to do in high school. You were doing that since you were a kid. What are you afraid of? There is nothing to be afraid of. If you can do this, I don't want to say performance, but if you can do this, even being in pageants. I remember at Wayside, we had Miss Wayside. We had to
Wow.
raise money. We
Yeah.
had to, like, we was
Running for Miss
America.
America.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally.
They called them debutante ball.
Yes.
That's
We
what
had
we
all
called
of
them.
that.
The church.
We had all of that.
All of that was prevalent back in our younger years in the church, and we don't see a lot of that any longer. And consequently, our young people are not as engaged as we were. And that's what something that saddens me about church today because of the change. We don't see our young people as engaged as we once were.
I'm gonna tell you why. You ready?
I'm listening.
Okay. We got these.
Yeah, that's a major
What
distraction.
wasn't you we might have gotten away with having a coloring book. Possibly. Maybe a dial. Maybe. Wasn't no phones. Wasn't no iPads. Wasn't, earbuds and you not paying what? And if a usher had to keep talking to you, oh, you was gonna get popped.
We didn't even have. We barely had beepers. Yeah, times have changed.
Absolutely.
Times have changed.
I have been to several churches where the kids are in the back. First of all, ain't nobody paying attention to them.
Now they
First. Second, you go by there and everybody got their head down and they're on their phones, or they got their headphones on and they got their iPads.
Yep.
Nobody's engaged to God.
None. They don't have a clue of what's going on in the
no clue. None whatsoever. So I get it. I mean, like I said, growing up, there were parents involved in our spiritual growth. Hands on.
Yeah.
Wasn't you just depend on somebody else to teach your children? No. It was all of us. It was again the village outside of the church as well. Our neighbors. When was the last time you invited somebody to church? When was the last time you got your neighbor to go to church? Do they even know you go to church?
A lot of people, their neighbors don't know that they are Christians and believers and followers of Christ. I'm of the persuasion that everywhere I go, I try to evangelize and witness. I could be sitting at a table. I remember one time I was sitting at a table not too long ago, back in, I want to say June, the end of June. The waitress came to our table, and we said something to her, and she started singing. I said, "What church you go to?" She says, "I go to Praise Tabernacle." I said, "Do you?" She said, "Yeah, I go to Praise Tabernacle." I said, "What's your pastor's name?" And she called off the last pastor. I said, "You still go there?" She said, "Yeah, I do. I was just telling my mama we got to get back to church." I said, "Well, you got to meet your pastor." I said, "I'm sure your pastor would love to meet you." She says, "You think so?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Have you been watching them virtually?" She says, "No, I haven't had it." I said, "Well, let me pull up a service for you." I pulled up the service and hit play and showed it to her. And she just looked at me and was like flabbergasted. Called her mother right on the spot. And I say all that to say that we have to have a bold approach, but yet a realistic approach in evangelism, sharing Jesus, not being afraid, not being fearful, to ask that question. Hey, are you saved?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all in your personality, your approach.
Yeah.
And that young lady made that vow right there. I'm coming to church. If you can approach me like this, oh, I'm coming to church. And God be praised that our church has grown because of that, God drawing people back to the church, back to Himself, reconciling men unto Himself. So I'm glad about it.
I'm happy. I mean, like I said, I follow in, every week is another soul has been added to the kingdom. And I'm like, yes, 4 or 5 people, yes, they have been giving their lives back to Christ. I mean, right now, we know what was being shown. My faith and my trust is not in man.
No.
I don't care who in this White House. Don't matter to me. I serve God. That's it. And whatever He's saying, because everything is still in His control.
He's never lost control.
Never. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I'm not surprised about anything when it comes to when the person in that soul is right and ready. God
Right.
would definitely send somebody to go ahead and get them. We had a conversation the other night about if you want the boatloads, you got to go into the deep.
You got to launch out into the deep.
You ain't gonna get Moby Dick at the shallow end.
No, you're not.
Or
Jesus
having
told his
shallow
disciples,
messages.
launch out into the deep, prepare for a great catch.
Woo! I done told you you're gonna have me get off this couch. Don't do it. What is something people would be surprised to know about you?
I'm scared of heights.
But you be on planes.
And I'm afraid. Well. I'm not. I guess I'm not afraid of heights. What people would love about be shocked to know about me. I don't think they'll be shocked to know anything about Sam Berry at this juncture. Because everything there is to know, people know about.
Already know.
Yeah, they know I love God. My hands sweat when I walk up to preach, and I get an upset stomach every time.
Really?
Ever.
Now that would be surprising. I would have never thought that.
Whenever I go to preach, I'm gonna have an upset. My stomach. We call it in our family. You got the bubble guts. But my stomach goes crazy, and I have sweaty palms, and I know that that's a sign of humility, because I'm moving up to do something that is so going to change the trajectory of somebody's life, and going to be the mouthpiece of God and be the determined factor whether somebody gets to know.
Uh-oh. Well, I think somebody might have called them. We shall see. This is so good, so rich in history. I hope you guys are getting this. I had no clue and no idea, but I am glad that he is definitely moving forward in God. And I want you guys, as far as the village is concerned, to continue to watch and pray. Watch. Yeah, he's definitely on the assignment. Yeah, he's still trying to get back.
There you go.
Hey, there I am.
We back now. We back.
So we know, surprisingly, Pastor gets sweaty hands and he get the bubble guts when he about to preach. That is definitely surprising. I would have never thought that ever. This year, 2024, I said that I wanted to promote as much as possible Black love, not only in couples, but to show why we do what we do.
Okay.
You gotta love what you do in order for to keep on doing it.
Oh my God.
So if you've been preaching for 30-something years, you gotta definitely love what you do outside of just being a preacher, but a husband, a father, a brother, all these different things. We have to, because of what we see in the world and what their agenda is, we got to combat that with, what do? Love. Let's talk about the importance of love in perfecting your gift.
Well, number one, if you're going to perfect it, because you love it, you will perfect it. When you love what you do, you will work to perfect it. Anybody that's not satisfied with what they do, they don't do nothing to improve. They just continue with the norm.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work. If you want to advance in what you do, then you need to make the necessary investments in your gift. And that's one thing I'm always doing. I'm always investing in my gift, whether it's through reading, whether it's through uh, going to a class, um, studying. I'm going to always be working to perfect my craft because I love what I do. And in order for people to love what you do and love to see you doing it, they must know that you've taken time to invest.
That's a good one.
Because if you don't invest in it, what makes it worth me listening to it?
Absolutely.
Or receiving from it?
Absolutely. With also this is really good. The gems that sometimes, again, we take for granted. We think because we're born in to a certain family that it's just going to come automatic. We sometimes think because we are gifted that we don't have to do anything else to perfect that. There has always been the student teacher aspect of love. Whether you have it right in front of you, or if it's somebody that you admire yourself, that you want to say, hey, I might want to be like this person, or I want to take this and that from that person and put it on me. As far as I always say that I'm a mutant, not a bad mutant, but I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly absorbing somebody else's gift and talent to not only strengthen myself, and I don't mean just in the spiritual world. I'm talking about physically as well, and in your marketplace or in your relationships. Because some things, again, we wasn't taught. We didn't see it. And so we do things out of error. But once you know better,
you do better.
You got to do better. And so I am definitely an advocate of the lessons that I have learned, whether they're good or bad, I share.
Yeah, they're all teachable. We call them teachable moments. You learn from the good and the bad. And you find that applicable even in the natural and the spiritual. You know, we have to learn from every experience we encounter in life and use those lessons to be better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I learn more from my mistakes than I learn from a book sometimes.
Yeah.
That's real talk.
Yeah. I think sometimes we forget. Well, I know a few women who forget to go get gas, right?
Oh, Jesus. I saw that on Facebook today.
And it's not that they purposely do it. They're just not paying attention. So sometimes, unfortunately, we have to get that we ran out of gas.
Right.
And we sit there and we try to figure out how in the world did I get here? Did I go make it? And I said someone, it's unnecessary money that's going to be spent. That's unnecessary time that you can't get back because you're not paying attention. It's got to call somebody, got to wait for them to come. Hopefully you got a gas can. Then there's the towing fee, all these different things that go into account that you ran out of gas.
Right.
We hear these stories all the time, but you're not thinking that this will ever happen to you.
It will happen.
And then you have these moments of, you know what? That happened to me. Let me tell you the things, the tips, so you don't run out of gas. So you know what? From other people's stories, I make sure my car stay on half, at least.
Wow.
At least.
So you learned.
Absolutely, by somebody else's mistakes.
By somebody else's mistakes.
And I give you this. When I lived in Alabama, they had a major tornado happened.
Okay.
Tore Huntsville up, tore Madison up. Had no clue, no idea, no warning.
Mm-hmm.
When it was done, there were no gas stations that had gas. There were no grocery stores who had ice or any of that. We had to go 2 cities over to get gas.
Wow.
So imagine if you were already low on gas. You're
You messed
hoping
up.
and praying that you're going to make it to the gas station.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, everybody else is thinking the same thing. They might run out of gas too because, hey, everybody's going to the next city over just to fill up.
Everybody doing what you're doing, so you got to hope you make it. Yep.
Crazy. But
Talking
again,
good, but we got to learn.
we got to learn. And we're going to learn this in love.
Uh-huh.
We're going to learn this in love because, again, it didn't necessarily happen to me in that instance, but the fact that the stories are so similar,
Right.
you got to take it in. Love yourself enough to not only protect your gift, but also turn it around and tell somebody else about it.
You must be willing to share your story, your experience, bring somebody else up with your testimony and your story. That's we don't see a lot of that today. People dying, not having shared their story or their testimony, and that's the travesty of leadership. The failure to reach back and to bring somebody else up with you, or to prepare that next generation
Yes.
for where you are today.
Absolutely. We just had a family reunion last weekend, and the elders of the family were there. And normally they don't come out, but you want to sit where the wisdom is, right?
Almost definitely.
And I promised myself I would not allow the history to go to the grave and not tap in.
That's good.
And not tap in because, again, there's so much rich history in our families. And if no one's sharing and no one's talking, you're not going to know the history of how you got here, how the family moves and operates, all of these different things you wouldn't know, which goes
the journey back to, must be chronicled.
Yes, which goes back to how you got here. Again, the seed, the legacy that is growing, has grown and continue to grow because it had to start from the roots.
It had to start somewhere. It had to start somewhere. Mine started on my grandfather's side, Eddie Crawford Murphy, who was a deacon, and Samuel Berry Sr., who was a pastor. Samuel Berry Sr. gave it to Samuel Berry Jr. Eddie Crawford gave it to William Murphy Sr. William Murphy Sr. made sure Curlin had it. Sam Jr. and Curlin made sure I had it, along with the others, aunts and uncles that have also contributed to Sam Berry III, having the best of two families, the Murphys and the Berries and the Murphys. You don't see that too often, but I'm blessed and privileged and highly favored to have come from such a great seed and to be privileged to carry on a legacy of preachers, songwriters, minstrels, psalmists, pastors, husbands, family men, carrying on their legacy. And it's not easy all the time, but it's a privilege.
Wow. Now, I knew about the Berries. I didn't know about the Murphys until you started talking.
You didn't know that I was a Murphy too?
Nope.
You did not know that I was a Murphy?
I did not.
Wow. Yes, my mother is Carolyn Faye Murphy. She married my dad and became Carolyn Faye Berry. But I am Murphy. I'm Berry. On my dad's side, Murphy. On my mom's side. So I was raised in the Berry Murphy family. And our families have been intertwined through my mom and dad.
Nope, I did not. And one thing about me, I do not research people. So this is literally a real conversation.
Yeah.
So you telling me stuff I have no idea.
When I was saying that my father was the first organist of Great Ebenezer, or even Prince of Peace, that's because my grandfather, Bishop William H. Murphy Sr., was the pastor. My father was the musician, church musician. Yeah. Raised in all of that.
Wow. Again, you're telling gems. I had no clue, no idea, but it had to be told. Again, somebody's going to tell your story if you don't tell it yourself.
I'd rather be the one to tell it. How about that?
How about it? You wrote a book yet?
True.
Did you write a book yet?
No, I haven't written a book yet. That's my next to-do list. On my to-do list. Once I'm in school right now, so I wanted to get these studies. I had to get adjusted to being here in South Florida. So now that I'm pretty much getting my feet wet in South Florida, getting back in school and things of that nature, and then doing some other things, I think the book is on the horizon. The ink pen is in my hand.
Yes. So tip for now, because you're not physically writing right now, author to author, is you have voice notes. So when an idea or a topic comes across your mind, if you're not literally writing it down, record yourself. Go back later, and the whatever your mind was at that time will re-trigger itself. So even if it's later on, however, you still got somewhere to start.
Right.
That
sounds good.
Huh?
That sounds good, because my thing is, and me and my brother were talking about this a week ago. When we die, what will they have to say that we ever lived? Writings and music live on after.
Absolutely. And this is another thing. I'm sure you guys take lots and lots of pictures. There was a thing where our families have albums. That's not a historic word, but albums, right?
It is. That's an ancient term. Family picture albums.
I have some, and so that is necessary for leaving seeds.
It is.
Even into, yes, God, I hear you. So even in your book, there will be pictures. As we say, proof that it is what it is. You can't, well, nowadays you can alter the pictures and things of that nature. But these pictures is going to tell the story itself, where words won't be able to describe what you see. Right?
I hear you.
So keep that in mind of the visual legacy as well as the voice legacy. Because yes, God, if you heard it, like you were talking about your father, your granddad, when you hear their voice, you already know who it is. Just like in our distinctive, if we hear our mom or our dad talk, you know it's them. They can be
Right.
in a crowd full of people. But when they say your name, you know exactly what that means.
Oh, exactly. You know it based upon the tone and
The
everything.
tone and everything. So again, I can see again the visual, the voice, the different types of seeds that you and your family have and continue to leave on this earth is very important.
Truly.
So the last one I will get into is, what is a balanced life for you?
Say that question one more time.
What is a balanced life to you?
Well, my mother told me at the age of 14, she said, Sam, there's more to life than church. You got to be balanced. So a balanced life, of course, I have my time with the Lord. I have my time uh, pastoring God's people. But what helps me have a balanced life is my wife. She keeps me balanced. She'll say, hey, let's go to the beach. I'll go. Let's go on vacation next week. Let's plan the vacation. Let's go on a cruise. Let's do something fun outside of church. But then when we're in church, we're in church. We're
Yes.
doing the work of the ministry. But no, giving every part of your life the right amount of attention and time is balanced life. You have to give family, church, well, God, family, church, and fun life, proper time. Of course, God always gets more because He's our source. But you gotta invest in all areas, all four. I got 4 areas of investment. I'm gonna spend time with God, spend time with my wife, which is my family. I'm gonna do my ministry, what I'm called to do. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna have some fun. If it's not doing nothing but going outside washing my car, that's fun to me. So
Okay.
that's my balanced life.
So before I let you go, before we get into our church announcements, you know you got to sing something, right?
Oh, I'm not singing on this thing. What are you talking about?
Why not? You was hinting at it like twice.
I never hinted at singing.
Yes, you did. You was trying.
No, I never hinted at singing. Never, ever. My voice is raspy and scratchy now. And I'm resting my voice for Sunday. Hallelujah. There's your song. Hallelujah. That just stretched that tone right out. Hallelujah. There you go. That was the song. Hallelujah.
Praise the Lord.
You look like you're mad, but God bless you.
I am not. I'm not mad. When you do the replay, you sung 2 different songs. I just want you to know that.
When I do the replay on what?
On here, when you replay, you did
What song did I sing?
a message from the Lord. Hallelujah. You did a little.
Where you get me singing that at?
When you replay it, you'll see. And it was something else you did. You didn't sing the whole song though. I said a snippet of it.
You played that already?
No, I said when you replay this conversation, you're gonna see that you did a snippet of that song.
And how are you going to retrieve that old video, old soundbite?
So what we're gonna do is when this is over, I'm gonna send you the link to this off of YouTube. And when you watch our conversation, you're gonna see and you're gonna hear that you did a little snippet of that particular song. When I brought up, hey, I think I remember what song y'all choir sung, and I started saying it, and then you'll see.
Oh, I sung already then. You have your song. There you go. God be praised. There you go.
That's fine. That's quite all right. All right, everybody. The village, I need y'all to get ready. We about to do the church announcements, and then we're gonna let Pastor Barry go. So he can enjoy the sun going down. It's not a screensaver, you guys. That is a real thing that's happening behind him. Okay, I just want y'all to know that. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So, in 2022 is where God gave me the first book. The Blueprint God's Design is on Amazon. You can put the title in, my name in. However, I thank you in advance for that. God actually was like, yeah, you're going the wrong way. You're doing too much. You're doing my job. And I need you to basically reset. We find out that even with blueprints, when you go against the design, you're wasting time and you're wasting money. And so I was sick. I was doing all types of things that wasn't what God wanted me to do. So I'm glad that I was able to hear his voice to say, okay, enough is enough. And now we're here. In 2024, this year in May, second book around. I am so proud of this one. Can Prayer Change Things? And it's on Amazon right now. You can put the title in, the code, my name. I still get chills about that one. This book was actually written in 2010, and it was finally here where God told me to release it. So I'm super excited about that. If you want to continue to see the success of this podcast, I'm trying to get to TV land. I'm going to take what we do here to TV land. You can donate at the Cash App at Sunshine Camila. I thank you in advance for that. Tonight's conversation is brought to you by Blacktop Streetball Association, btsba.com. If you remember N1 and you remember the fella named Main Event, well, this is his baby. He will be coming back out. And I need you to go to the website and see what cities he will be coming to near you. If you know of anyone that's doing positive things, who want to help not only in their community, but for their families, whether it's advice, whether it's help, whether it's the connections, please inbox me on Messenger. Please inbox me on IG or email me. Again, I thank you for that. One more thing. AC's Teas. My friend Alita Cotton does the best ginger and turmeric tea. Please call her at 313-380-0321. She is AYECEE on Facebook. Again, AC's Teas. You will not be disappointed. Mr. Barry, now that we haven't done the church announcements.
We done with church announcements?
Yeah, that was my church announcements.
Okay, you've had your church announcements. So we got to govern ourselves accordingly.
Govern ourselves accordingly, yes. And I need for you to have the last words, as we call the benediction.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been a pleasure sharing snippets of my story of legacy, where God has brought me from and where God is taking me to. Never discounted, but I always count it as an honor. So having said that, blessings to everybody, all my fam back in Detroit. I love y'all. And continue to pray for us as we continue to do what God has called us to do. Everything we learned in the Midwest, God is allowing us to bring fresh insight of ministry and to bring it to this melting pot called South Florida. So I'm privileged and honored to serve as the senior pastor of the Praise Tabernacle International Church here in sunny South Florida. So thanks, Sunshine Camilla, for giving us this opportunity to share. And prayerfully, our paths will continue to cross as our families continue to do the work of the kingdom. So, once again, thank you. God bless everybody. Grace and peace be multiplied unto you is my prayer.
One more thing. You're still on in the mornings, right?
Every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., Throne Room Prayer Live with yours truly, Pastor Samuel Berry III. You can catch it on the Praise Tabernacle International page, our official Facebook page. You can catch it on YouTube. And of course, people share it, and you'll always see it being shared from our Facebook page as well.
So you guys, Village, I need you guys to support him. We're not saying this is a cause, but this is something he has been called to do. As we learned tonight of his wonderful and rich legacy, the seeds that have been sown. And as you can see, there's proof and evidence of the fruit of those seeds that have been planted in his family and in his life. He's definitely someone to, follow as he follows Christ with his family. They just came back from, was it Holy Convocation?
Just came back from the Full Gospel Convention.
So
Full Gospel Fellowship Conference.
So
yes,
again, we have to get our, refreshings. We have our moments of gathering together so we can draw strength from each other. Again, I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're literally one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny, proven over and over again since I started the show in 2020. Again, as I stated, I have some of the dopest people on this side of heaven. Tonight was no different than any other night that I have on here. Again, I will see you on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have 2 teenage hip hoppers that are actually doing really, really well. I don't want you to miss that. The first Thursday in August, let's say God's Universal House of Prayer. I need y'all to meet me there at 6:30. We will be having our first rehearsals for this wonderful worship experience that will take place in October. So if you can sing, and as we say in the Black church, if you can sing, we need you there. We want everybody to come and be a part, being committed to this cause of having this awesome worship experience. You're talking about some of Detroit's best musicians, the best director, directress, whatever you want to call it. And of course, the anointed people of God will be in the building. Again, I thank you. And I will see y'all on Tuesday. See ya.